Hi guys, welcome back to The Forgetful Scholar, and this week I did two books. And okay, so this week was fantastic because, you know, I obviously watch a lot of booktube, and I'm always like, I started to get a little envious that all these booktubers were really excited about these series and really jazzed for certain series, and I was like, oh man, I remember that. I haven't been jazzed in devouring a certain series for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like that certain rush you get when you just can't wait till the next book comes out, right? Now, the last book I felt about that was the Rath and Rune series by Jordan L. Hawk. I love the first one, pre-ordered the second one, and my dumb ass did not know that I had the second book in my Kindle library for months. To the point I read it this week, and when I finished that book, the third one came out. I was like, man, how long has that been in my Kindle library? And I've been lamenting not having a series I was super excited about. I swear, the forgetful part in my title is not facetious, okay? It is fact. So we're gonna start with Rath and Rune 2, The Unseen, a novel, Wind of Wilder Shine, Jordan L. Hawk. Now, I love this color. I love the tentacles because it's important. Now, because it's a series, and I don't tend to give books in a series 5 stars for standalones just because, you know, I usually grade the whole series overall. So the only reason I'm not giving this 5 stars is because it's part of a series, but this is a 5-star book. So it's 4.9, okay? It's 5 stars. So, and I remember how much I love these boys. So recap, Sebastian, okay, so recap. Let's do a recap. Woo! All right. So this takes place 10 years after the Wyborn and Griffin series in the same town. 10 years after, Sebastian works at the Ladysmith Museum where Wyborn from the previous series works. He works in the library though. And through the first book, you found out the librarians, and he's an archivist, not only do they take care of the books, but they tend to lock up dangerous occult books from the general public so people aren't needlessly dying, you know? So kind of remind me a little bit of the Librarians show and movie, you know what I'm talking? With Noah Wilde, you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, I'll probably put a picture here. Done. Okay. He's perfect. He's completely human. His mother, in the last book you found out his mother died in a house fire, and she was in charge of protecting the Book of Breath. And these are the Book of Breath, the Book of Flesh, and I think there's a couple other ones. They are really dark, evil books, right? And you find out that the museum's founder, his lover, bound to 4 of those books, and they drove him insane. So from last book, Sebastian is bound to the Book of Breath because he used it to fight off evil, an evil occult. Okay. Now, Vesper, or if you don't remember from the last book, he and his brother Not were raised in a doomsday Cthulhu cult that wanted to bring about the end of the world. And because him and Not are children of their human mother, and the All-Mother, the Lord of the Forest, the Black Goat Cthulhu creature. So he has a human form, and he also has goat eyes, horns, and 8 tentacles that come out of his back when he's not. And he's immune to magic, and he's super strong. His younger brother Not, unfortunately, he doesn't have a human form. He's not immune to magic, but he's a very powerful sorcerer, but a different kind of sorcerer than the humans. His power is from a different base. He has a human face, a human arm, I guess human torso, they don't really go into it, and the rest is tentacles, right? So they're supposed to lead an army to destroy the world. And Vesper is the sweetest pumpkin pie ever. Like, he's just a little marshmallow and he doesn't want to hurt anybody. And he's like, no, I don't want to. So his brother ran away. Love it. And he ends up in Waldorfschen. I'd never be able to pronounce that down. They end up there, which is like the mecca of weird. I thought that was New Jersey, but okay, fine, whatever. It's fine. It's from Massachusetts. Okay. And he ends up being, because his grandfather taught him how to repair books. So he starts working in the museum. Him and Sebastian fall in love. And like, they are so cute. And I love this series so much. And I love how this author plays with the outward package not matching the inner self. And how wonderful they do that with. Like, oh, chef's kiss. It's fantastic, right? So in this one, they're trying to find the Book of Flesh. And while this is going on, there's some gruesome, mutilating murders going on, right? And I will warn you, there is a lot of, like, body horror in this one. More so than the past Cthulhu stories. This one is pretty intense with the body horror, but it doesn't feel unnecessary because it was showing the brutality of the crimes. You know what I mean? So to me, it wasn't like gratuitous. It made sense, you know? So we see how like the connection between Sebastian and Vesper has grown. Ves and his little brother Not are living with Sebastian in his sister's home, and how much his sister and her 5 kids, and I think she's got 3 husbands. I don't know, go girl. They're all like sea captains and they all know about each other and they're all completely fine with it. Like, you love to see, like, in a situation like that, all being adults, all being okay with it. It's lovely, healthy communication. Anyway, and they just accepted him and his little brother Not as family. They're not weird about them having tentacles. They love them. They're part of the family. That's it. And I love that. I love Bonnie. She's wonderful. Now, horrible murders going on, and they're trying to solve the murder. They're also trying to find the Book of Flesh, right? And sad times, the grandfather and the mother are alive and they show up. Now, the thing is, if you remember the first book, they were horribly abusive. Now, the grandfather never laid a hand on the boys, but he always agreed with the mother's punishment, which was abuse. And you find out how just psychotic these two are, because the grandfather showed up like he would be welcomed, you know, with open arms. And Vesper kind of has memories of his childhood where, like, he would say how much he adored this friend of his and all these wonderful stories. And then, like, how, you know, like, reminiscing with a smile on his face, how, like, he had this dear friend that he killed, and, like, you know, with a smile. Like, crazy sociopath, right? And the mother breaks into the Masquerade, and that's what internally I think of this book is. Masquerade breaks into the Masquerade by killing the woman, taking her clothes and her invitation. Like, they're nuts. You know what I mean? And you feel how panicky, like how panicked Ves is. And the thing that I really loved about this, right? Vesper is a child of abuse. Emotional, physical, you know, like, and because of that, oh, doggo scratching. It's like so hard for him to put boundaries up and to, like, he's terrified of them. And he's like this really powerful person, but he's so terrified of them. And like when they're around, it's like he becomes the scared child again. And I was like, oh, that is done so well. Like, that is done so well. Oh my gosh, Jordan L. Hawk, you are brilliant. And that is done so freaking well. In case you haven't guessed, this is, you know, historical, because it takes place in the turn of the century, like 1900, like, so it takes place 1920s, about roughly. It is paranormal romance, because it's got Cthulhu, so also monster romance. It's like the two, you know. The murder mystery. I kind of knew right away who the big bad was, right? It wasn't, I kind of knew, like, chapter 6 who the big bad was, and that's fine, you know, 100% that's cool. This isn't supposed to be like a whodunit murder mystery, right? What did surprise me, because Irene is Sebastian's best friend, and she's a sorceress, and she's betrothed to another powerful family, the Waits and Mortimer. And the first book, Mortimer was kind of like a spoiled, bratty, like, you didn't like him, right? In this book, you don't really like him either, and considering the morality of these crimes, I kind of assumed Mortimer would have fallen one specific way on the spectrum, right? I don't want to give too much away. But I was completely wrong, and he fell on the other side of the spectrum. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm completely surprised. So that's always fun. I was like, what? And then the third act fight scene, so freaking good. Like, I want to give it 5 stars just for that alone. It was so freaking good. Like, and especially like, writing fight scenes has to be really difficult. Then writing fight scenes with tentacles and magic flying around and like a Cthulhu beast involved. I was like, damn, this is so good. It was clear. I could follow everybody's actions. The tension was magnificent. It was fast paced. I loved every second of it. So just for the third act alone, gorgeous. Gorgeous. So, and now the third one's come out, and I'm really excited about it. I'm probably going to wait another week before I do that, because I do have a TBR for my Kindle, and this book has been waiting for a while that I'm going to read next week, and I really need to do that. Like, I really just need to get that done. You know what I mean? Okay, so the next book, I forgot what their names are. One moment, please. Okay, so the next book, Little White Lies in my head. It's called Little White Lies in my head. And I gave it a 3-star. It is MF sci-fi monster romance. And you know, when I say sci-fi monster contemporary romance, you best believe you know who I'm talking about. So, His Human Widow Monsters Love Curvy Girls Book 10 by Michele Mills. Hello. Okay. Girl, this was fun. I had a fun week, which is great because you guys know I've been struggling with a reading slump, so having a fun week was just what I need. So, it's Gabby, and she's the human, and the monster, I was pronouncing it Bryce, so there we go. So basically, okay, she's from New Earth, and I love that she was studying to be med lab tech, but her father died suddenly, and because we know from the previous books that New Earth is kind of a slum that they're slowly working their way out of, right? So she needed money fast to pay for her family, like her mom and her siblings, which she has a lot, wouldn't be kicked out, right? So this job posting came up to be a companion for, the red devil looking aliens. She's 100 years old. Her name is Hattie. She was fun. She's not in a lot. And she was a little Deus Ex Machina, but we'll talk about that. So she accepted the job, and it was supposed to be for this, soldier. I forget what his rank was, but pretty high up. But it turns out like he didn't come back from his last mission, and he was declared dead. So the best friend, who was a lawyer, immediately started to do some shenanigans and said that she was, instead of the nanny, like the companion, she was his wife. And she went ahead to meet him, but he passed away. Now he did this because the manor sits on top of oil, or liquid gold, right? It's not oil, it was actually liquid gold. And he didn't want to drill it because the ramifications for the environment, it would have killed off the firebird, right? Which is like the national bird or something like that. So he lied, said that she was actually his widow. She went along with it because of a lot of reasons. She needed money, the DNR. She was going to leave after the 2 years of mourning. She hated lying, because it's a little white lie. She hated lying to the staff that she became really close friends with. And the grandmother, Hattie, she adored her, so she hated lying. The thing is, I would have loved for her to be conniving. Like, she's really sweet, kind, and innocent, which is great. Fine. Okay. But sometimes I want to read a romance where, like, the girl is, like, getting it for herself. You know what I mean? Like, if Michelle Mills wrote Gabby as, like, an opportunist and someone like, hey, I'm starving to death. Hey, let me pose as his widow to, you know, get myself out of poverty. You know, I would have been like, oh, fascinating. And then we could have, like, been with her as she starts to care about other people, things like that. I think that would have been a lot of fun. Because this book was 3 stars. And it was fine. It wasn't like, nothing crazy happened, like what, book 3 of this series, where the alien was secretly living in the house with his human mate for 6 months without telling her and just kind of spying on her, because shit was crazy. And I still remember it, because that shit was crazy. Anyway, it's not like that. Bryce, turns out he was actually in a prison, and he escapes. And he basically, you know, like these books tend to be, he falls in love with her at first sight. Normally these books, the author, like, causes an issue so they don't just start humping, you know what I mean? So they get to know each other. But this one, there wasn't that. They basically fell in love in like 2 days. Like, I get that she's been living in his house and she's kind of, fell for him by seeing his surroundings and things like that. Again, if she was a little bit more on the morally gray side, I think following her as she falls in love with this guy as the guy that she thinks is dead, it would have been so interesting. You know what I mean? Right. So, you know, he makes it so they're really bonded, you know, and then the guy that is behind his imprisonment actually wanted him dead, shows up. And the thing, like, we're going to pause there for a second. Now, the grandmother, has these visions. So that's a little weird, because in the series, we haven't had anything like that before, right? So that was a little weird. And then she tells Bryce and Gabby, hey, the bad guy's coming to get you, run. And instead of running, like, he's like, we have to go. And she's like, why? And they spend like 4 pages discussing why they need to leave. To the point where the bad guy shows up. I'm like, yeah, fucking yeah. Like, what the? So it's 3 stars because she really cut into her own tension with this book. And I was like, the fuck? Like, you have to go. Someone's coming to kill you. Run. Your wife is pregnant. Get out of there. And he's like, hey, wife, we must leave. And she's like, why? And then fucking 4 pages of monologue and like discussing about it. No, you pick her up, you run. You know what I mean? Like, what the? Like, I was just like, what is happening? I did like, and this is a spoiler, that Gabby is the one that puts the bad guy down permanently. Like, she shoots, like, headshot, dead. Awesome. Awesome. Which is what I would really like if Gabby was, like, a little bit more morally gray. You know, maybe a thief, because, you know, starving to death. You know, something. You know? Like a scoundrel that we could, like, feel bad for and understand why they've done what they've done. You know? Anyway. Cut the tension down. Like, they just killed their own tension. And then it was very much, the last chapter was very much tell, not show, which I was very disappointed with. So this one wasn't as great as the first one, but I still had fun. These books, Michelle Mills books, I always have a good time, even if they're crazy, because I feel like she's having fun writing them, right? The author feels like they're having fun writing it, and I have fun reading it. Like, there's definitely a tone to it, like, hey, isn't this hilarious? I'll make fun of it myself. And you're like in on the joke and you're having a good time. It's like when you're talking to someone on the phone. And yes, cell phones can be used to call. I know, weird, but it happens. And the person on the other line is smiling and you could kind of tell through their tone. Like, it's like the human part of your brain knows that they're smiling. I don't even know why or how we do that, but we could tell. So with this, I just feel like you could tell that the author is having a blast writing it. So you kind of have a fun time reading it, even if it's batshit crazy, which this can be batshit crazy. Some of the books in the series, batshit crazy. And this is coming from a woman that reads a lot of Cthulhu romances. I think sometimes these are batshit crazy. I'm gonna leave that with you. So at the end of the day, I had a fun time this week. So I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.